All right, Trump makes a bold threat against Iran. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The president making a very bold declaration this morning, putting the Iranian terror regime right on the spot. From this point forward, anytime the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be a missile, rocket, drone, or any other device or weapon, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located to or in their capital city of Tehran. We're going to see just how bold the Revolutionary Guard that controls the military in Iran is with a threat like that on the table. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens tonight. The president honoring 4 soldiers today killed by Iranian attacks on Gulf military bases, saying this on his way to the dignified transfer.
You honor them, and one of the hardest things to do, for me, it's one of the hardest things to do as a president, but has to be done. They're going to pay a big price. They're being decimated.
There you have it. Trump also asked about justifying what the media has dubbed an unpopular war, saying that the mission is not unpopular. The short-term economic consequences are.
Americans aren't against the war. A poll just came out. Americans don't want gasoline prices, but they're not against the war. That just came out loud and clear in a poll. Nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Do you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? You think it's good?
Again, containing the ability of a terror regime to acquire a nuclear weapon is broadly popular with Americans. If you pull it that way, you would find that. In fact, it's a no-brainer. And just remember, if the Iranian regime suddenly announced that it had produced an arsenal of nuclear weapons, which most people agree was going to happen at some point in the future, if not the near future, in the next year or two, the same experts and media elites criticizing what they call a war of choice would be lambasting the Trump White House for not launching this operation if Iran were to have acquired that weapon in the future. Marco Rubio today, the Secretary of State, reminding the world we are trying to marginalize and denuclearize a regime that has spent all of its money for years, for decades, on terrorism against the West and consolidating its power and control over the nation of Iran.
Iran's in a lot of trouble. They suffered a tremendous amount of damage to their military infrastructure, but they've also spent 20 years taking every penny they have and not spending it on their country. They spent it on sponsoring terrorist groups and building up their missiles and their drone systems. And this is what you're seeing them use now, which is greatly diminished, is exactly the conventional shield that they were going to hide behind to pursue a nuclear program and challenge the world to do anything about it or face the wrath of what they were doing.
Yeah, just think about how easily Iran could blackmail the world if it did have any kind of a nuclear arsenal and delivery methods to get it somewhere in the West. Imagine the West at the relative mercy of an Islamist regime like Iran. You're not dealing with people like the North Koreans, people that value their life, people that want to survive, that are just looking for leverage and power. You're not dealing with a country like Russia that wants its country to survive. You're dealing with people that are ideologically insane, that don't care if you kill everyone in their country, don't care if you kill them, that think that they're going to get 72 virgins when they die as long as they die killing infidels. That's who you're dealing with. Imagine them having their hands on nuclear weapons with the potential to kill hundreds of thousands of people at any given time. Again, that is why all of this is happening. Richard Goldberg, senior advisor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, joins us now. Retired Marine Colonel Mike Jernigan also with us. Good to have you guys back with us. Colonel Jernigan, starting with you, the threat from the president, if you touch the ships going through the Strait of Hormuz, we're taking out bridges and power plants. How do you think that changes the game?
Hey, good evening, Rob. I think that's what needs to happen, is the Iranians respond to pain, and the president's about to bring the pain. And I believe it's already started. We're in our 11th day of straight attacks. And yesterday and the day before, we already struck 2 of their nuclear power facilities in Kunar and Bushnell, which really sounds like a coming-of-age movie, but those are the names of the towns where those nuclear reactors are.
Right. Richard, your perspective on the same question. That's quite a bold threat. And now we just wait and see if the IRGC is dumb enough to try and take out another of these oil tankers.
Yeah, well, I think you're seeing the desperation level rise on the IRGC side. I think they are flailing a bit. They may have activated the Houthis finally, and really, I think against the Houthis' own will. They've sat out this entire conflict until now. That, to me, is a break-the-glass moment for the regime, pushing them against the Houthis' own interests with the Saudis, breaking the truce, and now trying to also put the Red Sea in play. And I think that's happening because CENTCOM is being very successful and methodical. They are working through all the capabilities that are needed to threaten the Strait of Hormuz. They are degrading them. And I think the Iranians know where this is heading, inland, against more of their missile command and control, against their drone command and control, and eventually also some of the leftover nuclear sites like Pickaxe Mountain. Yeah. And the president needs to just stay the course, because I think it's working. And the number one goal here is to make sure that terrorists can't be in control of a major waterway and can't get nuclear weapons.
Colonel, it seems like, you know, for a brief moment there, we were duped into this memorandum of understanding and giving them a break. We let them kind of open up, sell a little oil. It seems like all of that is over now, and perhaps the time for negotiating is at an end. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we were duped. I think that we gave them an honest chance to negotiate in good faith. And they proved their colors and showed that they have an inability to negotiate, and they have no desire to get away from their nuclear weapon aspirations, and they have no desire to extort the world regarding the Straits of Hormuz. Right. So I think what we are seeing is a natural, logical progression of the established military campaign.
And Colonel, what everybody wants to know, what everyone's trying to figure out is how much more of this is there? Because it's, you know, as the president said, what we're trying to do, I think most Americans respect, but it comes at a cost that Americans don't like. We'd like to see this over with. What do you think the timeline is? Colonel, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Rob. You know, I think that what we're seeing is we have to kind of remember that, as Carl was just talking earlier, that this is a radical regime, and they are chanting death to America and death to Israel in schools. And so it's also a country the size twice of Texas. So it's going to take a while, but it's important to remember that time is on the American side. We need to be patient. We can do this all day long. You know, where I grew up, they said, you want to fight? Well, let's bring a lunch, because this is going to take all day. And so as long as the Americans remain patient, we can continue to strike the targets. Yeah. The Iranians are the ones that are struggling in their economy. It's also important to note that the money that they've been spending on their own military, they're also spending on subsidies to keep their people compliant.
Right. Richard, you wonder, though, I mean, this regime can just embed itself no matter how bad it gets. It seems like it's very hard to remove. How do you get to an end game?
One of the things we learned during Epic Fury is that they had hardened their underground facilities, I think more than we had estimated, the missile cities and the command and control bunkers. So one of my questions, obviously, for CENTCOM is, have they figured out some sort of solution there? Are we going to see an escalation against the missile cities and command and control bunkers that were still left over from the previous conflict, or will those remain intact? At some point, the target set will run its course for what we are seeing play out. This is what Admiral Cooper had prepared for Project Freedom. At that point, you see the damage that's been done, the capabilities that exist, go back to escort missions, bring more ships across. And if you can bring 3-4 ships a night through, the amount of oil that those will take into market, plus the pipelines, you will have defeated the regime economically and militarily alongside a blockade.
Okay. Well, we'll follow it, of course. Richard Goldberg, Colonel Mike Jernigan, good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
They voted against voter ID. Can you believe that? Well, you saw what happened. They caught thousands of votes in New Jersey where illegal aliens were allowed to vote, thousands and thousands of votes. So we're fighting so that all voters must show voter ID. We're fighting so that all voters must provide proof of citizenship, okay?
President earlier today in Atlanta, the Republican Senate blowing him off, as we know. Trump yet again pushing the SAVE Act, voter ID, proof of citizenship to vote in this country. He's got some serious ammunition now. We'll see if this changes anything. Yesterday's bombshell admission from New Jersey's Governor Mikey Sherrill, a revelation that at least, and this is just one instance that they found and confirmed, hundreds of illegal aliens have been voting in elections in New Jersey.
In June of 2023, nearly 3 years before I became governor, a serious software error in New Jersey's motor vehicle system led to the improper voter registration of what we believe to be roughly 6,600 people in our state. Initial analysis shows that fewer than 400 newly registered individuals voted in an election due to this software error.
And again, as you listen to this, this is just one proven case. This is one isolated incident, and they knew how big of a deal this was, so they made her come out there, get way in front of it, because they know exactly what this means. What else is out there is a greater question. The desperation, though, of the media to make this story obsolete has been priceless. Take a listen to this on CNN.
What's your tolerance for this?
Hold on. This is not about tolerance. This is about, is it widespread or is it something that is relatively rare? What is your bar for widespread?
She said, my bar is I want no tolerance. Okay. I have zero tolerance.
So what is your tolerance for American citizens?
By the way, this isn't the only place this is happening.
What is your tolerance for American citizens whose valid voter registrations are invalidated by incorrect databases? What's your tolerance for that?
I don't have tolerance for any mistakes in the electoral system.
So then why are we not keeping the same energy for that as we are for this?
Filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza joins us now. It's funny that they always go to this idea that all of these honest voters are being thrown off databases and will never be able to vote unless we have absolutely no restrictions and no common sense in our elections.
You know, recently a prominent Democratic politician said that if you have voter ID, it's going to be very difficult for Democrats to win elections. And that was a case of like letting the cat out of the bag, because this explains why Democrats fight so hard against any attempt to reform the system. You want to clean up the voter rolls? They don't want to do it. You want to have voter ID? They don't want it. You want to have signature verification? They don't want to do that either. So wherever the system can be made honest, they are against it. And I don't think it has anything to do with glitches or computers malfunctioning, because it's a little bit like we see a situation here where the tennis ball always falls on the same side of the net. And right there, that tells you that something more nefarious is afoot. Namely, there's a kind of system of sloppiness or cheating that has been allowed to become embedded.
Yeah, you know, and I do wonder how it happens. You know, I don't know if it's illegals are the biggest problem with it, but I know that it's a very warped system. I know that they send in all these NGOs into these rough parts of town, and they go into buildings and come out with thousands of votes, and you wonder, and they all vote for the same people. There's so many different ways of manipulating elections that they have. They use many different methods. And the fact is that, I mean, if you just had people go to the polls and vote with an ID, I think, just as you said, their party would be decimated in elections, because who supports their broader view of the world? Who could possibly support it in large numbers?
Well, they figured this out, right? Earlier in the century, they said that, you know what, America's becoming more multiracial, and as the black population increases relative to the white, as we get more Hispanics, our future lies in the minority vote. And then they suddenly realized that more and more blacks are defecting to the Republican Party. There's a tidal shift among Hispanics moving to the right. And so they realized that, you know, our voters are not going to come from there. We need to get them someplace else. And this is when they hit upon the illegal scheme. In a sense, they solved the problem by, you may almost say, baptizing new voters.
Yeah. And then the big play is going to come when they get that amnesty. They want to get that big amnesty and get them all voting, and then they think they'll never lose again. Dinesh, good to see you. Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Coming up, Mamdani folds like a cheap suit, a humiliating reality check for our Islamist mayor here in New York. And then later in News from the Left, how rich woke Google bends left on everything except paying taxes.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
My dad had never been in better shape. Then he had a stroke and passed away. But he had life insurance. So even after he was gone, he was still taking care of us. Ethos.com, 10 minutes, 100% online.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
This year, as we gather to celebrate America's 250th, get your yard barbecue ready with Pocket Hose, the world's #1 expanding hose. Our new ballistic outer sleeve is reinforced with a liquid crystal polymer used in bulletproof vests that's 5 times stronger than steel. Turn on the water and it grows into a full-length, full-power hose. Turn it off and it shrinks back to pocket size for easy storage. Upgrade your hose game with Pocket Hose Ballistic. Available now at Home Depot, Walmart, Ace Hardware, and on Amazon with free shipping.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, the architect of a horrific genocide against the Palestinian people. He is responsible for the killing of more than 73,000 people, for the maiming of tens of thousands of children, for the targeting of neonatal hospitals and maternity care centers, denying newborns even the chance to live, for the countless people he starved as he blocked food and humanitarian aid from reaching them, for the gunning down of hundreds of aid workers and journalists, all as we, as Americans, pay for the bombs that do the killing. Anyone with their eyes, with their heart, with their conscience should recognize the devastation he has wrought and understand that he belongs before a court of law.
He's a sinister little liar, isn't he? Look at that face. What does he look like he wants to do? New York communist Islamist mayor Zoran Mamdani declaring Israel's wartime Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal in this newly released social media video with all the trappings. You get the sound editing and the scary music, while admitting to his base that he can't actually arrest Netanyahu like he promised because he doesn't have any authority to do so. And this was a big promise. Take a listen.
My administration has reviewed every avenue available under applicable law to determine whether New York City could execute the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant if Benjamin Netanyahu came here. It is clear that we do not have the independent legal authority to enforce this warrant. The federal government, however, does, and I call on them to join the ICC and execute this warrant. And I want to be equally clear. Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City.
Neither are you, Zoran. Neither are you. Very unpopular mayor. Congressman Brandon Gill joins us now. It's surreal to watch a video like that with the music and everything. He was grilled today on why he never condemns Hamas, where he never had an issue with the arrest of communist dictator Nicolas Maduro. So much hypocrisy is built into this, and just an outrageous claim of a war criminal, of a man that's just trying to protect his country.
You know, and this is just patently absurd for the mayor of an American city to be engaging in foreign policy, trying to meet with the Iranians separately, going after different world leaders. I mean, it's just insane. It's absurd. But you're exactly right. There's an insane amount of hypocrisy here as well, where this is somebody who would never say anything negative about Hamas or the slaughter of Israeli citizens on October 7th, but will happily go after Israel and Netanyahu any chance he gets.
It's so distorted. It's so disgusting. I mean, he claims that Netanyahu's murdering innocent people, murdering kids. No, Hamas, the organization that you refuse to condemn, hides children and innocent people, hides behind them, claiming that Netanyahu starved the people of Gaza. No, the food gets sent in. Hamas just takes it, takes the aid, sells it for more money for bombs, so you can't let the food come in. This is why it's happening. None of that, all of that, he refuses to accept any of those realities because it's pretty simple. He's a Ugandan Indian man that hates the Jews. That's what it is.
That's right. That's what it is. This is somebody who should never have been allowed into our country in the first place, in my opinion, somebody whose presence here is a damning indictment of our legal immigration system, and he's not the only one on the other side of the aisle who falls into that category. But this is somebody who fundamentally not only hates America and the values that our country was founded upon, but hates all of Western civilization and wants to do everything that he can to tear it apart, to unwind it, and to turn America into the third world.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Want to get to you for a second. You've had some good hearings this week. You had one today on the future of DEI in law school, in the legal profession. Great moment between you and the American Bar Association president. Take a look.
According to the ABA's website, quote, all of us have implicit biases. Would you agree with that statement?
The ABA believes that diversity, equity, and inclusion improves the practice.
Would you agree with the statement that, quote, all of us have implicit biases from the ABA's website?
The ABA believes that diversity in all of its
realms
is
important. Can I take that? It's a yes or no question. Do you believe that all of us have implicit biases, as your website says?
The ABA looks to remove barriers, and we examine.
That's not my question, ma'am. Do you believe that all of us have implicit biases?
I've expressed what the ABA is doing.
That is the ABA's position.
You had a good one yesterday with the Smithsonian director as well. You have these people that oversee these ridiculous organizations, and when the ridiculous things that they oversee and that they allow are put in their face, they have no idea what to say.
That's exactly right. What I asked her right after that clip was, if you believe, as you say, that everybody has implicit biases, against which groups do you harbor implicit biases? And I think that that's the question. You know, the left is so open about describing everybody as racist, everybody as bigoted. And if they truly believe that, then I would like to hear them explain their bigotries and their hatreds of different groups. But they won't do that. It's all part of a constant revolution that the left wants to create to completely invert society. And that's what we're trying to expose here with that DEI hearing.
That's exactly what you did expose. Congressman Brandon Gill, good to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, a real conversation about data centers up next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit, total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
If your roof looks like this, your home is at risk. A new metal roof from Erie Home withstands wind up to 120 miles per hour and hail up to 2 inches, all backed by a 50-year warranty. Call now for 50% off installation. Get your free estimate now.
Yeah. 2 p.m. still works great. We'll put our best guy on the job.
You said you were the best guy.
Also the sales guy.
You should check out Capitus. You can get a fast business loan and hire some help.
Customer service, please hold. Loans are complicated.
Not with Capitus. It's easy to apply, and there are no hidden fees.
I got this.
Stop waiting. Start growing. Get the funding you need at Capitus.com. You should probably call HR.
You're looking at HR.
It's me, Ricky. You grew up with me. I am using Fatty 15 to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. I urge you to try Fatty 15.
Now, tirzepatide for weight management is available in a dissolvable tablet. It's not the injection and doesn't offer the same strength or clinical evidence as the injectable form, and results will differ from the injection. But for patients who don't want shots, this tablet option is worth exploring. Understanding results will differ from the injection. Tirzepatide tablets are a prescription that starts with a telehealth evaluation by a licensed physician who reviews your health history. And if it's right for you, they prescribe it. This might be worth a conversation.
The sweet sound of Monday morning. Somehow you're both wired and wiped out at the same time. Meet Super Calm from Nello, a simple mix to help support healthy cortisol levels and bring you back into balance. Super Calm from Nello.
All right, welcome back. One of the more ridiculous outrage stories we've seen in recent months in this country has been against data centers. You've seen these stories everywhere. These complexes that make it possible for all of us to use our phones all the time, because we all use our phones all the time now. Over the last 20 years, your phone has become the most important tool in your life. Data centers are the reason that that's even possible, the reason that they function. And as we use phones more and more, data centers have become absolutely critical infrastructure in this country. And the truth is that we need a lot more of them because people are on their phones for 6 or 8 or 10 hours a day. They're as essential as power lines running through your town when you think about it. But there is a powerful lobby that's working to vilify these projects, funded largely outside this country, driving local governments to turn against the construction of what is truly vital infrastructure if you want to keep having a cell phone. It could send it overseas, that infrastructure. That would be bad news. Take a listen to some of the endlessly negative talking points that we hear.
These technologies are creating more isolation, more loneliness, more mental illness. You know what? We've got to figure out a way to stop it.
Need regulations for these huge hyperscale data centers.
People are now reporting very large increases in their electric bill, large increases in their water bill.
They also don't have the ability to insist that these companies bring their own power or pay more for the grid. This is a huge tax on our grid.
I proposed a moratorium for 3 very specific reasons. First, the environmental protections are not in place.
We want to slow down AI data center development. We want to slow down AI in general and stop big tech from infringing on our local communities.
So again, you're seeing this everywhere. This kind of media is everywhere. New York has become the first state to put a moratorium on building these data centers, our clueless governor claiming that she's protecting the environment. But what does that do? Well, that sends them over to China. So if we ever find ourselves in some kind of a conflict with China, very possible in the near future, wait till you see the chaos when they can just turn off all our phones and we have no communication because all our data centers are somewhere else. As far as the talking points, power and water seem to be the big complaints. Both are mostly nonsensical. We'll start with water. In reality, data centers consume about 17 billion gallons of water every single year. And by the way, as they become new, that'll go down. That's according to Pew Research. That's a tiny fraction of the tens of trillions of gallons of water that this country consumes every single year. And keep in mind, we use about 2 billion gallons of water just to keep all the lovely golf courses that I like to play nice and green. Simon Tusha, founder of Tech Fusions, has been building data centers in this country for years. He joins us now. Good to see you again, sir. So if we send all our data centers overseas, which is what this big push is trying to do, not have data centers in the U.S., what happens?
Unfortunately, the first thing that happens is we lose our health care.
We lose our health. Explain that.
We lose your health care. So all of our, everything you do now is online.
Yeah.
Everything the doctor does, he comes in, he has a tablet, which is communicating to a data center. It's not just our phones. It's just not our Uber Eats. It's everything that we do. So you're going to lose your health care, first of all, because your doctor's not going to have access to your health data. Like, this is absolutely...
If someone were to mess with those data centers, is what
absolutely.
You're saying. We'd lose all communication, including the ability to take care of
yourself, your loved ones.
Yeah, exactly.
People, and that's what's crazy to me. It's like, people are like, I don't want a data center in my community. So that means you don't want your health information in your community? It's just, to your point, it's nonsensical.
And It's as simple as this. If the people that are complaining are on this thing all the time, everybody's on this thing all the time, there's a reality to it. This device doesn't just work just by itself.
It does not.
This needs a tremendous amount of data has to move around. Every single time I send a text to a friend, doesn't it go through like 4 data centers?
Usually,
something like that?
Yeah.
Like 4 data centers that moves through just for one text message. So the reality is that this, and I think it's fair to say, this is as important as the power lines running through your community.
I mean, I think it is as important, but we've gotten to the point where we're so dependent on it. Yeah. That everything we do is either on the phone, it's on the tablet. If you want to make sure your kids get home from school and check the Ring doorbell, it's going through a data center. Yeah. You want to FaceTime with grandma, it's going through a data center. So we're literally cutting ourselves off from the world we're creating this scarcity in the marketplace. And supply and demand's a real thing. Right. It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, and you're making a good point. I want to just point out that you've got the president on your side. Like the president seems to be behind and understands the necessity of these. I just want to play him for a second.
Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community and very substantially down.
So that brings us to the other complaint is power related, that these are a huge drain on power. They're raising energy costs for Americans. I want to talk about what your company is building are data centers that have they're off the grid. They only rely on themselves for energy. You have one in Pennsylvania that actually fracks its own energy so that it's not on any kind of a grid at all.
So, our site, there are fracking pads that's run by another company. But yes, so we actually, they bring the molecules out of the ground, we clean them, we dry them, and we burn them right on site.
Right.
But what's more important is the infrastructure in Western Pennsylvania is old and depleted. We can actually help support Western PA with our backup systems. So if something happens in the community, we can actually export power back to the grid and help support PJM, help support our local communities.
You're making too much power.
Well, we need to make power because, we make power 24 hours a day. So it's 8,760 hours, but I need to have backup systems. So when I do maintenance and that sort of thing, so I do have extra capacity that we can provide back to the grid.
What is your message, before we let you go, to Americans that are hearing all of this negative about data centers? What's your message to them as an American that uses their phone 6 hours a day?
I want everybody just stop, and I'll give you one data point. It's hot right now. Everybody in America has air conditioners. Just ask yourself, how many times a day do you go out and fill your air conditioner with water? You don't.
You don't.
Data centers old data centers, maybe. New data centers, we use closed loop systems. They don't use water. This is all a false flag. So
old data centers used a lot. The new ones that you're building are sufficient. We
use airside chillers. I don't use any water.
You don't use any water?
I don't use any water. So this is just a false flag that people are putting out there to say, oh, you're taking our water. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
But no one's standing up to it and just being rational for a second.
It is it's very nonsensical to watch all of this, and that's why we brought you on. Simon Tusha with Tech Fusions.
Great to see
you. Thanks so much. All right, moving on. Members of the president's cabinet have all launched official TikTok accounts as the DOJ now says there is no longer a threat as the app is now under U.S. control. The Trump's first term, you remember, the administration argued that TikTok posed a national security threat because of its ownership by China's ByteDance, which owns TikTok globally while only holding a nearly 20% minority stake here in the U.S. Here's a quote. The 2022 No TikTok on Government Devices Act said TikTok couldn't be used on government-issued phones, but Trump's DOJ now says that law is no longer applicable given the change in the company's ownership to a U.S.-controlled venture earlier this year that was all wrapped up in Larry Ellison and Oracle, and they kind of got it away from China. So now they basically say that TikTok is safe. Let's talk about it. Kaelan Dorr, Deputy Assistant to the President, joins us now from the White House. Kaelan, good to see you. So tell me how this works. ByteDance has spun TikTok off into its own kind of entity here in the United States, and now the DOJ says it's safe to use, so now the administration has it.
Oh, big time. And the White House accounts, the president, we've all been very popular on the app, and we're really excited to introduce the rest of the cabinet to the world of TikTok and to get out there and meet the American voter where they are. I think for 4 years we saw that we had no idea who was in charge, we didn't know what was going on, and it's kind of an indictment of the political class in this country that we do something that pushes the envelope a little bit, like, I don't know, communicate with a whole new swath of American voter, American citizen, and it's suddenly breaking news. And so we're really excited about it. I mean, the teams have gotten really creative, and a good stat for you is, you know, the White House account, what we have and what we've built over the last few months is around 7 million followers, and a little over half or a little under half of those actually do not follow the president. They do not follow any of the affiliated campaign accounts, and it's because, you know, game recognized game, right? We're killing it. We're getting out there. We're reaching the American voter in a way that's very entertaining, and they're just here to watch and enjoy and ingest the messaging and learn all about what we're doing.
The president has a soft spot for social media after the last election. He became very popular with the influencers. He was doing all the interviews. He was all over. He was very viral on social media. But for parents out there, if the administration, if the cabinet members have TikTok now, should they feel that this is a safe app to use, that there's not a threat that your information is going to end up in the hands of an adversarial country?
No, and I'd encourage everyone who has any kind of concern to go ahead and read that DOJ letter. It's out there. I know you guys and a lot of others have been covering it here over the last 48 hours, 72 hours. So I would encourage you to read that. It kind of walks through in great detail, more detail than we probably have time for, and kind of how much, you know, ownership stake and all that. You covered it really well, actually. You should get an A+, a gold star. But at the end of the day, it's not safe, and it's very important that we kind of, like I said, meet the American voter where they are, and we go out there and we reach these folks. The president, like you said, has been incredible on TikTok. He's very proud of the following he's built on TikTok. He's nearing 500 billion impressions on TikToks that mention him, that mention hashtag Trump. I mean, it is bonkers.
How do you win?
And it's because he's the aura farming president. He's the aura farming president, man. People want to know what he's got going on next. He's entertaining, and everybody from him to, you know, the HUD secretary to Secretary Kennedy, they're all having fun, man. And that's why this has been such an effective tool.
And how do you win elections in the future, especially with young voters, without something like TikTok? Kaelan, good to see you. Thanks so much from the White House. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. Great seeing you. Take care.
See you. All right. Coming up, the 2026 FIFA World Cup was the most watched and most profitable ever, and maybe made the world a little more MAGA. White House Chief of Protocol Monica Crowley helped put on an incredible World Cup, and she joins us to talk about it next.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is restored. Millions of Americans are tuning in to Newsmax. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific. Watch Newsmax or download our free app on your TV or phone today.
Almost half of women runners say safety is their biggest concern. Majority of us have to constantly change routes, start times.
Instead of thinking of my pace, we worry about being followed, unwanted attention, and stuff that is simply scary.
Imagine this banana was a less lethal device, capable of incapacitating an attacker, letting you get to safety.
At Byrna, we don't sell bananas. Go to Byrna.com to find how you can always safely make it to the finish line.
I am a big believer in super beta prostate. You'll notice less urges to urinate, and you won't be getting up at night for so many bathroom trips. I wouldn't say it if I didn't truly believe it.
From senior to childcare to pets and more, the new Care.com makes it easier than ever to find the care you need. And you don't have to hire just anyone. You can find a background-checked caregiver who's the right fit for you. Join now for 20% off Care.com.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
When Saturday rolls around, I don't want to jump through hoops to watch college football. Good thing DirecTV makes it easy to keep up with my favorite college teams. No hopping between apps or channels.
Stream college football without the hurdles on DirecTV.
As a working mom, I'm always on the move. The zip-up shoulder support bra from Tommy Copper is the perfect bra for my busy life. I have to do it all, and I can wear it for anything. I love the support for my back and shoulders. From morning to night, why would I wear any other bra? Thank you, Tommy Copper.
My days are long, packed with activities. I need a bra that's comfortable and supportive. Thanks, Tommy Copper.
I feel so confident with great posture. No matter what I'm doing, why would I wear any other bra? Thank you, Tommy Copper.
Go to TommyCopper.com and upgrade your bra today.
I wanted to have control over drinking instead of alcohol having control over me. I started with Or Health about a year ago. It put the brakes on that I had been looking for. I can drink less and say no, and it's the best feeling in the world.
Text Newsmax to 710-710 to learn more.
Welcome back. So the country just set another fun record under this president. The FIFA World Cup final, held here in New Jersey between Spain and Argentina, drew just under 63 million viewers just here in the U.S. on Sunday. It was the most watched soccer game in American history, up 132% from the last World Cup final that was in Qatar, which had just under 27 million domestic viewers here in the U.S. That's not the only record that was broken. FIFA generated $15 billion in revenue from the 2026 World Cup here in the Americas, the largest amount ever. And Monica Crowley is the chief of protocol for the United States and Trump administration representative for Freedom 250. That was key in facilitating the World Cup tournament. All the big events, Monica's got her fingers in. We know that. And it's good to see you again from the White House today. So tell us about 63 million viewers of a soccer game in the United States. That's impressive because this is really not a soccer country.
Pretty incredible, Rob, and it's all thanks to the great leadership of President Trump, who secured the 2026 FIFA World Cup back in his first term. So he had the vision for bringing this to the United States, even when he didn't think that he would be president at this time to preside over it. So, yeah, it was a record-breaking tournament by every metric possible, including record-breaking attendance. In fact, this tournament, Rob, had more attendance at the matches than the last two World Cups combined. We also had record-breaking viewership. Upwards of over 1 billion people around the world certainly saw that final, but they were also tuning in to pretty much every match in those exact numbers. The United States alone hosted 78 out of the 104 matches. The others were played in Canada and Mexico, our co-hosts. But the great bulk of the matches were right here at home. And you know what, Rob? It drove a massive economic boom to the United States. In Dallas alone, Rob, the tournament in that host city generated over $2.1 billion and over 3,000 new jobs. Multiply that across all 11 host cities, and you can see the kind of massive economic benefit it generated.
It is amazing. I want to talk about the reaction for a second that came. You know, of course, this got partisan, as everything does. We saw so much fury when the president was up on the stage and just kind of hung out with Spain's team as they celebrated. I want to play some of this and let you listen to how ridiculous they got on this moment.
Did you see this after Sunday's victory? Trump wouldn't leave the stage. He tries to stand in the middle of that picture and steal the thunder of the Spanish players.
He looks like somebody inserted his picture.
He
doesn't look like
he inserted himself.
But I mean, it's President Trump inserting himself at different times.
The entire ordeal was classic Donald Trump. An attempt to hog the spotlight at an event he had already unsuccessfully and unnecessarily inserted himself into.
Why is he on stage? Why is he there? It's so cringy.
It's why is he there, says the nerd from MSNBC. Let me just show this real quick. The team actually loved that he was there. You had at least one of the players doing the dance, the Trump dance. And it reminds me, Monica, of the fury over the Kennedy Center. You know, the administration did a ton of work to beautify the Kennedy Center, bring it back to life. With this event, you did a ton of work to make this a successful event. There was so much work that went into this with the administration, working with FIFA. Trump wants to get up there and enjoy some of that for a second, and he gets lambasted for it after all the work that you did.
Well, it will show you, Rob, the extent that the fake news will go to pick on any little thing or even make it up to attack Donald Trump. The players wanted him there. I was there. I was not on the ground, but I was there in the stadium, and I saw it up close and personal. Those Spanish players, for the most part, loved having him there. They accepted their medals from him. They shook his hand, and they wanted him to help them celebrate their moment. And you know what? Listen, the president brought the World Cup, the most successful, safest, most secure World Cup to the United States. He deserved a little bit of a moment there, too, right?
Let him have some
and the
fun
players,
on the stage.
the entire team, they were just so happy to have him there.
Oh, it was great. And real quick, I just want to show this because this really blew me away. The kid that scored the only goal in the game and the winning goal for Spain, Ferran Torres. This is, I believe, Madrid. This is the party, the celebration of the win when he got back to his home country. He's got the Make Spain Great Again hat on during the parade, posting that on his Instagram. How wild is that to see? And talk about stirring things up in a country that right now is run by a socialist regime. I love that.
Yeah, you know, I saw those images and I put it out on social media and I called it the Trump effect. The Trump effect is in effect worldwide. And you can see that there are so many people around the world who might be trapped in governments that are not serving their best interests, who see what President Trump is doing here and in countries and regions around the world to free them, to bring greater peace and prosperity. And they want that too. So good for that Spanish player.
That's great. You nailed the World Cup. You guys did a fantastic job. I know, and I'm not a soccer fan, but I mean, it went as well as you could. I watched the final game. It was great. I wish there was more goals, but that's part of the reason why we have football here in America. But Monica, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Exactly. You too. Thanks, Rob.
All right. Huge budget cuts coming to The View. Is that a sign of things to come?
Free yourself from prying eyes. Ask privately with Duck.ai. Visit Duck.ai to chat privately with ChatGPT, Claude, and other AIs for free, all in one place. Duck.ai is from DuckDuckGo, where AI is private and optional.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
You don't wait for a fire to buy a fire extinguisher, so why wait for Chogi Emergency to get a light back? Chogi Emergencies can handle anyone, anywhere. In fact, it's the first and only FDA-authorized anti-choking device in the country, designed for simplicity in an emergency. Just place, push, and pull. Peace of mind starts before the emergency. Be prepared when it matters most.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
If you're concerned about inflation, government debt, or the value of the dollar, you're not alone. Right now, more Americans are turning to physical gold and silver to help protect their savings. I'm Dean Heskett, President and CEO of Swiss America. For over 40 years, our family-owned company has helped investors protect their wealth through economic uncertainty. But when gold prices rise, something else happens too. New dealers suddenly appear overnight. Big promises, no track record, and too often no accountability. Swiss America has been serving customers since 1982, delivering physical metals, fair pricing, and straight answers. No pressure, no games. If you're considering adding gold or silver to your portfolio, call or text Swiss America and request your free report on protecting wealth with precious metals. When you work with a firm that stood the test of time, you know who you're dealing with today, tomorrow, and years from now. Our experienced team will answer your questions with no obligation. Call or text the number on your screen or visit our website. Experience matters. Trust is earned.
People always ask me how I stay ready, how I stay consistent, how I lock in when it actually counts, again and again. It's the work you do before anyone's watching. They think I must be on something. Maybe. It's pure, it's potent. It's all me. Something that never lets me down. Armra. I'm on it.
With Jackpocket, you can order official state lottery tickets anytime, anywhere. And you can see your ticket on the app. Plus, with new official state scratch-offs available on the app, more of your favorite games are right at your fingertips.
New Jackpocket customers get $10 instantly in lottery credits when you deposit just $5.
Back with some breaking news now. James Woolsey, CIA director in President Clinton's first term, has died at the age of 84. Woolsey's wife says that he died from a stroke after years of declining health as a result of Havana syndrome, which many allege is caused by some kind of a secret weapon that's being used by the Cuban government. Remember when all those American diplomats became sickened and we were wondering what was happening? And the allegation that Cuba was doing something to them with this secret weapon. His wife says that's part of the result of what killed him. Woolsey was a longtime Newsmax contributor and advisor. Again, 84 years old, Clinton CIA director back from the first term. All right, with that, time now for news from the left. Frontrunner for California Governor Xavier Becerra blatantly pushing bashing tax-paying restaurant owners in his state, telling his supporters to eat at taco trucks instead, run by illegals who pay no taxes. Take a listen.
Whether you are new to our state and visiting, and we hope you do spend some money, and if you're going to buy a street taco, buy a real street taco, not something from one of these, All I know is that there's real food in California, and there are real street tacos, and you don't get them in some establishment that's been around for a long time. You get it on the street from the guy who's been making it for a long time in his little cart.
Yeah, you don't get it from the guy that's been paying taxes in this miserable state for 20 years. You get it from the illegal immigrant that's making tacos on the side of the road and pays no taxes at all. This is the guy that wants to run the state of California. Who are the candidates anymore? How stupid do you want your state to be when you let people like that run it? Next up, Google quadrupling its office space in Miami this year after co-founders Larry Page, Sergey Brin bought in South Florida big time, fleeing a wealth tax in California. Bloomberg reporting Google signed a lease this spring to expand about 45,000 square feet, adding to its existing 10,000 square foot satellite office in Brickell neighborhood in Miami. Page buying $188 million in Miami real estate, Brin snagging up a $51 million beachfront home. And while most conservatives are actually applauding this, it's actually very obnoxious when you think about it. In 2024, Alphabet, the parent company, their employees and PACs directed 80 to 88% of their contributions to Democrats. Google has also invested heavily in DEI programs. It is a radically left-wing company from the top down, except when it comes to the CEOs wanting to pay taxes. The heads of Google are happy to help the left decimate our country. Just don't make them pay for the agenda that they consistently push. Very obnoxious story there about the heads of Google. And finally, budget cuts hitting The View, affecting the hosts' wardrobe budgets and also their pay raises. Source telling Page Six all of them have taken pay cuts. Insider telling the outlet that Alyssa Farah Griffin, who's earning in the mid-six-figure salary range, was denied a pay raise when she asked. And that's not a lot of money for somebody doing The View, I should say. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come for this horrific show, although we would miss the content. All right, coming up in Atlanta, Trump taunts cancel culture.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finnerty, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
There's a reason the wealthy don't keep all their money in one place. We work hard our entire lives to build wealth for retirement. If your retirement dropped 30% tomorrow, would you be ready? Or would you just have to wait and hope it comes back? The last thing any of us wants is to watch our retirement accounts shrink every time Wall Street panics, the dollar drops, or global uncertainty rises. That's why so many successful Americans turn to gold to help protect their retirement. And Preserve Gold is the only precious metals company I trust and recommend. Let me be frank, gold is not for everybody. And I do not give financial advice, but I do urge you to get my free wealth protection guide from Preserve Gold and learn about a special offer to receive up to $20,000 in free gold and silver. Education is power.
Text Newsmax to 50505.
You know, when I came in here, I was at a 15, and that's no joke. My spinal cord was almost severed. I feel like I'm gaining my freedom. My pain level of the day is nothing.
No pain now? No. Okay, feels good? Yep.
And I can feel my legs waking up and getting feeling back in my leg and my foot I haven't had in a year and a half, 2 years. I feel like I'm getting my life back.
Venati succeeds where others fail.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
While this banana may not save you from someone breaking into your home, Berna's banana helped one vet repel an intruder in his.
This huge guy, 6'5", 6'6", just barreled through my front door. I have my Berna and my Glock. I always go for the Berna first. I've seen enough death and destruction to last 2 lifetimes. Here is the perfect item I can have, feel totally safe, and know I'm not going to kill anybody.
At Berna, we don't sell bananas, we sell peace of mind.
When the IRS or state tax authorities come after you or your business, your entire life can change overnight. They can garnish your wages, seize your bank accounts, take your home, or even retirement accounts, while penalties and interest continue growing, making it feel impossible to ever catch up.
America Tax Group's experienced tax attorneys and enrolled agents step in, take control, and fight the IRS and state tax authorities directly. Whether you're facing bank levies, liens, we don't back down.
America Tax Group is the nation's leading tax relief firm. Let's take back what's rightfully yours.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric that helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
And finally tonight, the president with the potty mouth slamming the communist takeover of the Democrat Party today in Atlanta.
As long as we keep our current thinking, our current system, it's going up. If you go the other way, nothing ever succeeds. I made the statement once, with communism, everything turns to shit, okay? It's true. Terrible thing.
Yeah, might have forgotten to bleep that one there, but, well, whatever. And one of the funnier moments, the president taking a shot at his hometown Mets and inviting on stage Braves legendary former manager Brian Snitker and team CEO Mike Plant. The fans all start doing the Braves tomahawk chop, which the woke crybabies hate. This was funny.
The Mets have the highest salary in baseball, and they lose all the time on Friday. And I say, maybe we could steal this guy. Oh, listen. They say you're not allowed to do that. Do it.
Oh, Rob Finnerty up next. They say you're not allowed to do it. Do it.
Something tells me Trump didn't do a land acknowledgement before starting that speech there in Georgia. That was great. But why are the Chicago Blackhawks okay? Right? Like, we're fine with that one, but like the Guardians got to change their name and the Redskins.
The Guardians.
What are they now?
Lamest name ever. The Guardians.
It's so stupid. Go back. But no, but the Blackhawks are fine. Rob will do it again tomorrow. Finnerty starts right now.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.